At 2 a.m., my daughter shocked me with incredible news. I'm getting married, sold everything. Dave bolted upright, heart slamming against his ribs. He could barely register the cacophony outside before the door swung open. Emily stood there, wild-eyed, breathless with excitement. Dad, you won't believe it. I'm getting married, sold everything. Her words tumbled out in a torrent, the gleam in her eyes shimmering with a reckless abandon that pulled at his insides. He could scarcely process the news. Sold everything? Why would she do that? Panic flooded him, pairing with that familiar tightening in his throat, as he felt the walls of his simple life close in. How did they end up here? She was barely out of her teenage years, and now she was weaving a life story that felt like a fairy tale turned nightmare. Emily, wait. What do you mean everything? Emily's face lit up. The ring is beautiful. Yes, amazing, we're going away for the wedding. It's everything I've ever wanted. Her enthusiasm pierced through his confusion but deepened the chasm in his chest. The dreams he had sacrificed for her, late nights at the garage just to scrape by, were all cascading into this moment of seemingly reckless abandon. His breath quickened as his mind raced. The shop had become his prison, one where he exchanged dreams for paychecks, but each crank of the wrench had promised a future for her. Do you even know this guy? His voice shook. How can you trust him? But her eyes sparkled like stars, grounded in conviction. While he was steeped in fear, memories flooding back of late-night talks about dreams postponed, struggles shared, all the moments of love and loss amidst grease-stained tools. Before he could shape the words into something that might decant some sense, she pressed on, "You'll love him. I promise." Her enthusiasm washed over him like a wave, but he felt himself sink further into despair. Would she really listen to him? Or were her dreams blinding her from a reality he had known too well? Desperation clawed at him. How about we sit down with the family and talk this through? His suggestion fell flat, swallowed by the whirlwind of Emily's excitement. The love they shared fluctuated with the weight of unspoken worries, each unresolved issue magnifying in the room. He felt the timelines of regret and heartache mingle with the notion of standing by as she chased a fantasy built on whispered promises and dreams shared over quick dinners. As their voices flared, issues of the past pooled into the air, a life intertwined yet fraught with unrecognized resentment. Questions about their late mother, the laughter that masked deep wounds, the fragile threads that had stitched them together after her loss. In the aftermath, he was left swimming in a sea of uncertainty. With clenched fists, he felt a truth buried under their dysfunction, a legacy, an inheritance her mother had left behind, long untouched. He hadn't wanted to add to the turmoil, but could silence come at such a cost? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Cradling this letter from Emily's fiancé, fueled with dreams both buoyant and concerning, he stood at the precipice of a decision. Could revealing the truth reconstruct their bond? Or would it unravel everything they had built together? He felt the crisp paper against his skin, the reality of it coiling familiar tension in his gut. The choice felt monumental, frightening. Would he defend her or let her leap into uncertainty, knowing he might lose her forever? The silence stretched heavy, filled with the weight of impending revelations that could change everything they had ever known. Dave sat on the edge of his bed, the weight of Emily's news pressing heavily on his chest. The letter, a hasty declaration of love and commitment, felt like a talisman, both confining and potent with potential. He wondered what was going through Emily's mind as she bounded around with enthusiasm, a spirit unshackled by the realities he grappled with. It struck him that this very decision was imbued with her mother's essence, a recklessness tempered by passion that had fueled a life he once adored. Yet the throbbing worry in Dave's gut gnawed away at him, imploring him to confront the truths he had delayed addressing. His mind slipped to the past, the sacrifices, the sleepless nights at the shop, the deferred ambitions that had become the bedrock of their relationship. Leaning against the cool wall, he flashed back to the endless nights he had spent soothing Emily's fears after her mother's passing, promising her that they would be okay. But was he still keeping that promise? The more he thought about Emily's impulsive choice, the more he felt the need to forge clarity, not just for her but for himself. He mulled over what lay buried beneath the surface of their bond, expectations steeped in love, but laced with guilt. His own aspirations flickered like an unsteady flame, overshadowed by his father's voice echoing through his internal landscape. You must build a foundation for your family. So what did that really mean now? He pushed himself to his feet, the weight of impending action momentarily settling his unrest. Dave grabbed his work jacket, reminding himself of the familiarity of tools and machinery. There was solace in that brief grounding as he made his way to the shop. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, illuminating the oil-stained concrete floor as he fumbled through drawers, searching for a piece of machinery that might offer him that same sense of security he had loaned to Emily's unfolding dreams. But that day, nothing surged forward apart from memories and the vibrations of doubt. Each filled workspace jarred with the echoes of conversations that had taken shape in the corners of his mind. Though he surrounded himself with the physical tools of his trade, a wrench, a socket set, the only machination that thrummed loudly was the conflict buried within him. The ache of uncertainty funneled into a sudden clarity. What if her decision to leap was simply a reflection of his own stunted growth? This deeply seated fear had kept him tethered to the past, holding his daughter back from possibilities, tethered to a future less chained by caution. There was a generation of belief between them, rich with unfulfilled aspirations, more akin to a shackle than a safety net. As the day wore on, he pondered resilience. Could he rediscover it? Could confronting his past help them both create a narrative that was authentically their own? In the sharp light of day, he decided to invite Emily over for a simple dinner, a chance to communicate more than just cautious conversations. He would share his fears but also reawaken his long-dormant dreams, aspirations he had let slip through the cracks. Would it serve as a bridge, or would it only stir the embers of discontent? As he set the table, Dave's heart thrummed with anticipation, uncertainty lingering like the fading light outside. Was it possible that this conversation, forged in sincerity, could realign their futures? The memories of laughter and moments shared swirled as he prepared. A swirl of hope amidst apprehension. And yet, shadows of doubt threatened to tangle the evening. Could he be strong enough to face the truth of his own choices? As he heard the familiar creak of the door, the opportunity for revelations approached, both soothing and daunting. Tonight would be formative. He hoped an awakening of sorts, an opening of doors, but their fates hung precariously in the balance, waiting to be forged anew through dialogue. When the door swung open, Dave knew the moment of truth was upon him. Emily stepped into the dim light of the room, her eyes sparkling with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The door clicked shut behind her, sealing off the world outside. Dave met her gaze, his heart jangling with uncertainty. He motioned for her to sit at the table he set, the simple plates and flickering candle casting a warm halo that felt, in the starkness of the moment, almost absurd. "Dad," she began, biting her lip, "I'm really happy you invited me over. I want to talk about what I wrote in the letter." The words hung between them like a fragile thread, waiting to snap. Dave took a deep breath, the weight of his own truths pressing against his chest. "I want to talk too. But first let us eat." As they shared the modest dinner, the clamor of forks and knives echoed around them, drowning out his swirling thoughts. He watched Emily, her bright laughter spilling over the edges of the mundane, and felt an ache for the carefree girl she used to be. But somewhere within that girl was a young woman ready to embark on her own journey. A journey he wasn't sure he was ready to support. "Dad, I really think I'm ready for this," she said between bites, her enthusiasm bubbling over. "I've thought about it a lot and I know it's quick. Yes," he interrupted gently, heart racing. "You've always lived with this urgency, this passion. But don't you think there's a lot at stake? What about your career? What about the things you still want to do?" "Those things can come later," she asserted, her voice steady. "This is more than a whim to me. This is love. I want to build a life with someone who gets me, who encourages my dreams." Those words struck him. Love and dreams. He realized then that the careful plans he crafted for her weren't just suffocating. They could be hindering. He had spent years playing it safe, ensuring they'd never go hungry, never find themselves lost like he had. But what if by doing so, he had shackled Emily to a muted life? "Emily," he said, his voice breaking slightly as the words tumbled out, "I'm proud of you. You've been through so much. But I've realized I'm afraid of change, afraid of loss. I think I've been holding you back without realizing it. Her expression softened, brows knitting together. Dad, it's not just about what I want. I want you to dream too. Remember the plans you had before everything happened? The question ignited something within him. He had buried those desires so deeply that it felt surreal to be unearthing them in this moment. He could still picture the sketches he had once made of his own shop, the designs for bikes and custom engines dancing in his imagination like specters of a life not lived. I'm just scared, sweetheart, he admitted, discovering a new vulnerability. I don't want to see you hurt or fail. Emily reached across the table, her small hand enveloping his. I'll figure it out. We all need to take risks, Dad. What if we both start dreaming again? Together? The notion was foreign but liberating. The boundaries that had defined their relationship felt elastic, even hinting at potential renewal. Dave noticed the flicker of hope growing in Emily's eyes and questioned how much of his past was tethering her to a reality neither of them wanted anymore. Maybe it's time, he half whispered, barely meeting her gaze, to find out what we truly want, all while embracing the unknown. An unexpected determination surged within him. He felt a chance to reclaim his aspirations that had laid dormant for so long. They could carve out a new path, a path wherein they would not only support each other but flourish individually. As the conversation deepened, shadows of potential futures enveloped them. Dave realized that it wasn't only Emily's decisions that felt daunting, but his own need to redefine his role as a father. A father who dreams, who risks, and who encourages adventure in both his life and that of his daughter. But what if unearthing those dreams came with severe consequences? What if clinging to newfound freedom meant severing ties with the safety they once knew? The night wore on, those pressing questions loomed larger, leaving him desperate for answers. Tomorrow would demand clarity, decisions rooted in authenticity rather than fear. The bond they shared was untested, and like any relationship, it required strength and compromise. But for now, Emily's laughter filled the air. And Dave clung to the hope that this night was just the beginning. The weight of possibility pressed more heavily than before, hinting at an impending confrontation with his own suppressed aspirations. Tomorrow they would both face choices that could reshape their futures in ways he could only start to imagine. The morning light streamed through the kitchen window, illuminating the remnants of last night's dinner. Dave stood at the countertop, the aroma of brewing coffee a soothing balm against the anxiety coiling in his stomach. The silence of the house contrasted sharply with the clamor of thoughts racing through his mind. He stared into the steaming cup before him, knowing that today wasn't just another day. It was the turning point in both his life and Emily's. He had always been the protector, the anchor in his daughter's life. But the very idea of relinquishing that role felt like plunging into a turbulent sea. As he took the first sip, he felt the warmth wash over him, momentarily dispelling the chill of uncertainty. In that instant he realized he needed to confront his own fears and deeply buried ambitions. Movement caught his eye. Emily emerged from her room, her hair tousled but her smile radiant. The sunlight danced in her eyes, fueling the passion that had sparked their heartfelt conversation the previous evening. "Good morning, Dad," she chimed, her voice bright with promise. "Morning, kiddo. How did you sleep?" he asked, trying to gauge if she had any lingering doubts about their revelations. "Just fine. I kept thinking about everything we talked about," she replied, sliding onto a stool at the counter. "I really feel this is what I want. For both of us." Her conviction stole the breath from his lungs. It was clear she had decided, already committed to treating this as more than a fantasy. This was love, determination, and purpose. But could he match her spirit? "Yeah, your mom always used to say that commitment is more than just a piece of paper," he said, trying to sound supportive while reckoning with the whirlwind inside him. "Not every journey goes as planned, Em. And not every plan is worth following," she stated, her gaze unwavering, slicing through his lingering trepidation like a knife. His chest tightened as he realized she was right. Her words forced him to acknowledge that his careful blueprints for a predictable life could be stifling. Maybe I've been too rigid," he sighed deeply, contemplating his own hesitations. The thought of letting Emily dip her toes into the unknown ignited a conflicting mixture of fear and pride. "I guess I just don't want you to end up making mistakes like I did. I mean, how do I guide you without holding you back?" "By trusting me," she shot back, her voice firm yet laced with affection. You've got to trust that I will learn from my mistakes just like you did. Besides, isn't that what we're both hoping for? To really live? Isn't that the dream? Her resolve lit a flicker of something within him, something he hadn't felt in years. He had hidden his dreams behind practicality, but Emily held a mirror to his heart, forcing him to confront the pain of unrealized potential. What do you truly want to do, Dad? She asked, her eyes surveying him with a sincerity that rattled his foundations. He hesitated, burning questions swirling through his mind. What had he buried beneath layers of responsible fatherhood? As he struggled to unravel his thoughts, flashes of the past invaded his consciousness, sketches of bikes, blueprints of a shop, and the roar of engines danced before his eyes. I want to build things. Yeah, I dreamt of opening a place where I could combine mechanics and art. He hesitated, catching a glimpse of that dream he had pushed aside. I wanted to create. Then do it, Dad. We can create a life where both of us pursue our dreams together, she urged, and it was as if light pierced through the gloom that had shadowed his ambitions for so long. But fear lingered. The weight of unfulfilled expectations loomed over them. Would the pursuit of dreams unravel their bond or strengthen it? I have to think about this. What if things don't work out? What if we both fail? The uncertainty hung in the air like a pendulum ticking down. But as he watched her beauty in that vulnerability, he recognized a fierce resolve in her spirit, a trait he had always admired. We have to take risks, Dad. Otherwise, what are we really living for? She whispered, piercing through him. In that moment, Dave faced a mirror of his own making. With a wave of determination swelling inside him, he felt the weight of fear begin to lift. Today he would start to sketch a new life, one where dreams converged, and risks were embraced. But as he glanced back at Emily, he felt the gnawing sense that pursuing those dreams wouldn't be the end of their fears but rather the beginning of a new set of challenges. Would they be able to navigate them? I guess, he murmured slowly, it's time to find out what we're truly made of. Emily smiled, the light of possibility igniting hope anew, but even hope came with its own peril. The day wasn't just about dreaming. It was about the reality of confronting what their desires could unleash. What if pursuing freedom meant awakening remnants of the past that threatened their progression? Those questions lingered as he watched her, and a mix of trepidation and excitement hovered in the air, poised to ignite the journey ahead. Dave stood at the threshold of a new chapter, the weight of Emily's words still ringing in his ears. He glanced around the kitchen, the familiar surroundings suddenly feeling foreign and charged with potential. As he rinsed out the coffee pot, he felt a rush of inspiration, but it was tethered to the dull thud of anxiety that pounded against his chest. What did it truly mean to create? Could he forge a new identity as his daughter ventured into the unknown? He found himself questioning not just his capabilities, but the path that had led him here. Maybe in the process of encouraging Emily to embrace her aspirations, he had to rediscover his own without the protective shield of cynicism. The morning unfolded slowly, each minute stretching into an hour as he pondered his next steps. He envisioned the space he had always wanted, the busy hum of a workshop filled with tools, the raw smell of materials, and a vibrant atmosphere alive with innovation. It was more than a dream. It was a resurrection of a forgotten part of himself that clawed at the edges of his consciousness, begging for release. Driven by both hope and fear, he decided to take action. And so he pulled out a creased piece of paper from a drawer, the edges worn and the ink faded, a long-neglected sketch of his envisioned workshop. He studied the layout, the way it had once sparked excitement now igniting a flicker of determination within him. Could he really accomplish this? With new purpose, he grabbed a pen and began to revise the plans, sketching not just a building but a life. He imagined the laughter, the bustle, the process of creation flowing through space, echoing off the walls. It was a blend of mechanics and art, functional, yet beautifully chaotic. And alongside it, he pictured Emily, her spirit infusing the atmosphere, co-creating in a way that tied them closer together. His heart raced as he considered the logistics, the reality of such an endeavor unfurling before him. Startup costs, location, supplies. But rather than allowing fear to creep back in, he leaned into the challenge. He could approach it as he had always done, methodically. For once it would be direct and proactive, with him at the helm steering toward a chance at fulfillment. Yet, with excitement came the specter of doubt. What if this dream eclipsed the delicate bond he had with Emily? What if turning their lives into a venture pulled them apart? It struck him in that moment. He wasn't merely thinking of his ambitions. This was a shared pathway to freedom. Could their dreams, once liberated, intertwine instead of fracture their relationship? A wave of clarity washed over him. He needed to involve Emily in this process not just as a supporter, but as an integral part of the journey. The thrill of co-creation could lead their respective paths to merge rather than divide. This was the ultimate risk, yet it offered the greatest rewards that as the day wore on, he drafted a plan to present to her. How had he glossed over this potential before? Perhaps this ongoing dialogue of their dreams could strengthen their bond in ways he had never imagined. He would invite her to brainstorm ideas, conceptualize layouts, and forge a mission together. Later that evening, when Emily returned from her jaunt around town, he broached the topic, his voice firmer than it had been in days. As he shared his reinvigorated vision of a workshop, her eyes lit up, reflecting the same spark he had seen that morning. "We can plan it together, Em. I want you to help shape this with me. It's our journey." As they began to exchange ideas back and forth, he felt her excitement joining his own, an electric energy flooding the living room. They were embarking on something that could redefine them both. Yet an underlying hesitation flared within him. Could vulnerability be bred from collaboration? Or would the potential for failure shatter his hopes? In that moment, he understood he would have to balance his enthusiasm with careful introspection. All roads lead to understanding. Could he navigate this intricate blend of ambition alongside the uncertainty of risk? Would they rise resilient or collapse fractured under the pressure of ambition? As laughter filled the room, Dave embraced the warmth but felt the shadows of doubt lurking at the periphery. This new path glimmered with promise, but with that glimmer uncertainty loomed larger than ever. Would their shared dream emerge as a source of strength or the trigger of unspoken fears? And so that night, with their dreams bubbling to the surface, he pondered the complexity of their shared journey. A quiet chill crept through him. What if the dreams they dared to pursue revealed a deeper legacy, and what sacrifices would that demand of both father and daughter? The next morning, Dave woke with a sense of urgency prickling at the back of his mind. The dream he'd sketched out with Emily lingered in his thoughts, a vivid mosaic of their aspirations intertwined with the fear of the unknown. What lay ahead was no longer just a vision. It had transformed into a tangible possibility that demanded action. As the sun crested the horizon, casting golden rays across the cluttered workshop space in his mind, he whipped out his notebook, flipping to the freshly drafted plans. Today's task was clear: transform their dreams into actionable steps. It began not only with brainstorming logistics but also with addressing the emotional landscape that accompanied such ambitions. Emily emerged from her room still groggy, but her eyes widened when she spotted Dave poring over the sketches. "What's the plan, Dad?" she asked, curiosity dancing in her voice. She clearly sought clarity, but Dave felt the weight of responsibility. He didn't want to simply shower her with ideas. He needed to empower her to own their journey. He took a breath, gathering thoughts. "First, we need to set a timeline. You know how dreams can drift away if they don't have structure." He watched her nod thoughtfully, the gears in her mind visibly turning. Next came a discussion about resources. What tools did they need? What materials could be salvaged or repurposed? They debated everything, from having a designated budget to finding a potential location. Each suggestion they made carried a ripple of excitement, interwoven with hesitation. Would every compromise still lead to that dream workshop, or would they lose sight of the original vision? As they continued to talk, however, doubts resurfaced. He felt himself caught in a tide of worry. But what if we can't make it work, Em? What if our projections are completely off? Emily leaned back, her brow furrowing. "You always said the first step is to start, right? We can adjust along the way. Plus, if we fail, it's not the end of the world. We'll learn something." Her confidence ignited something in him. "You're right, of course," he said slowly. The sincerity of her belief in their ability to navigate whatever came next bolstered his resolve. But another troubling thought crept in. Was this plan truly what Emily wanted? Or was she simply mirroring his aspirations, fearing to pull away from what they had always shared as father and daughter? "Let us go deeper," he proposed, determined to probe their motivations. "What does success look like for you, really? Not just the workshop, but for us?" For a moment, silence enveloped them, an unguarded moment pregnant with possibility. Emily shifted in her seat, and her gaze fell to the floor. I want a place that's mine. I want to create things that matter. Together, right? He pressed gently, needing reassurance. Of course. But what if you don't want that? She replied, her eyes locking onto his, revealing a vulnerability he hadn't expected. The unexpected shift in their conversation buried a knife of fear in his gut. What if their ambitions were a mask, shrouding deeper insecurities? I do want it, he reiterated, but it has to be real for both of us, not just a shared project. Their dialogue ricocheted in that moment, a rhythmic exploration of fears and hopes. The more they spoke, the more their reflections stirred something in Dave, an urge to confront himself. Emily was not merely a projection of his dreams. She was her own individual, yearning for space to grow, to be seen. As they laid out their plans amid laughter and the undercurrent of trepidation, Dave felt the weight of true partnership blossom between them. Here was the essence of creation. It required trust in the unknown and the willingness to embrace potential failure. Yet the echoes of doubt still rang in his ears. What if this journey fractured them? What if the pursuit of ambition revealed fault lines he had long ignored? They needed more than a comprehensive plan. They required a shared conviction that their journey would forge an unbreakable bond. With renewed determination, he mapped out their next steps. Community workshops to learn tools, small projects to build momentum, and regular check-ins to ensure they grew stronger together. Each task became essential not merely for their dreams but for navigating the complex duality of father-daughter aspirations. As the day waned, leaving a golden hue over their plans, Dave sensed a critical juncture approaching. Would their journey forward strengthen their relationship, or would it expose cracks that could fracture their bond? The tension hummed quietly as they moved through ideas and actions, intertwining dreams while skirting the edge of what was yet to come. He began cautiously. What if we face something together we can't handle? Are you ready for that? Her response, filled with conviction, sent a surge of adrenaline through him. Then we face it together. But behind that sentiment loomed the question still tethered to his conscience. Were they truly equipped to confront whatever awaited? As the final light of day faded, Dave couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the precipice not merely of creation but of transformation. What lay just beyond the horizon of their dreams? Morning light broke with a furious intensity, lacing shadows across Dave's workshop. The vibrant sketches they created the night before glowed with promise, but inside him brewed a mixture of excitement and dread. Today was the day they would venture beyond their papery plans into the realm of real, tangible effort. They were no longer standing on the shore of their aspirations. They were stepping into the turbulent waters. He took inventory of the tools scattered across the workbench: rusty drills, worn-out saws, hastily arranged lumber. Dave felt an unusual weight upon him. This was the foundation of their dream. But with every inch of wood he inspected, doubt festered within. Were they prepared to commit, to labor over something that might never come to fruition? More importantly, was Emily prepared for the long journey ahead? Or was she caught up in an idea that sounded good in theory but might not withstand reality? Let us start with the basics, he declared, trying to summon authority in the face of his inner turmoil. We need to go to the hardware store and run through our list. Emily, enthusiasm bouncing off the walls, bounded toward the door. I've been waiting for this, she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. But he noticed a flicker of something else in her gaze. Was it eagerness? Or was it perhaps uncertainty disguised as excitement? Their trip to the hardware store was filled with laughter, banter, and endless deliberations over which nails were most suitable for their projects. Yet, within him, the seeds of frustration began to sprout. Each time they debated a purchase, the hard realization settled in that this dream was not just a workshop. It was a test of their resilience, one that could showcase hidden cracks in their dynamic. Look at this wood, Emily said, holding up a remarkably sturdy plank. We could make a solid workbench with this. That's a good choice, he replied absent-mindedly. He glanced down as his mind wandered. Ironically, building something solid required more than good materials. It required a stable foundation in their relationship and their individual selves. As they navigated the aisles, choosing items that seemed increasingly trivial in light of his growing anxiety, he considered if they had ventured too hastily. Each decision carried the risk of failure. Could they withstand the challenges inherent in realizing their dream? Once again he scanned Emily's face, searching for clarity. Was she prepared for inevitable obstacles that would loom like specters on their path? By the time their cart was filled, he couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't just the items that weighed on him. It was the emotional buildup underlying their ambitions. He needed honesty about their plans and about his fears. Back in the truck, he couldn't hold back. Can we talk about how we handle setbacks? You might be idealizing this transformation, he began, knowing full well it was an uncomfortable conversation. What do you mean? She asked, her brow knitting together, revealing the trepidation hidden beneath her earlier joy. I worry. What if things don't go the way we envision them? He cleared his throat, pressing on despite his growing unease. We might struggle, and I want to know if that's something you're ready for. Her silence filled the cab as she contemplated his words. Isn't that what you said? That we learn and adapt? If we hit a wall, can't we just figure it out together? There it was, the assurance that he sought. And yet, beneath her confidence lay a silent challenge. Was he really equipped to lead them through the chaos of the unexpected? Was he even capable of showcasing the strength of character he wished to cultivate in her? With her affirmation still echoing in his ears, he realized that this venture was not merely about establishing a workshop. It was a profound journey of personal growth for both of them. It was about resilience in the face of uncertainty, about learning to rely on each other as they confronted the unknown. Arriving home, he gathered the tools, his heart beating faster with each step. This was it. This would be a test of everything they spoke about. He would have to confront his own doubts, not just for himself but as a guide for Emily. Suddenly, the universe ushered in a new challenge. A deep clang echoed from behind the workshop. The sound of metal striking concrete broke the moment. He turned sharply to Emily. What was that? She looked as startled as he felt, eyes wide. I don't know, but it doesn't sound good. Just like their plans, the ground beneath them felt unsteady. Together they ventured to inspect the sound, their hearts racing with a blend of curiosity and trepidation, unaware of what awaited them. Would this interruption signal an obstacle to overcome, or expose an unforeseen opportunity for insight? As they rounded the corner of the workshop, Dave's heart raced, each step echoing the doubt swirling in his mind. What had caused that clang? An accident waiting to happen? He braced himself for a potential disaster that could derail everything they'd just begun to build. When they stepped outside, they found the source. A stack of metal pipes had toppled over, carelessly discarded during the previous owner's hasty move. Relieved that it was not something more catastrophic, Dave felt a spark of annoyance. This should have been cleaned up, he muttered. It's just another reminder that we can't overlook the little things. Emily, kneeling beside the fallen pipes, seemed to wrestle with her own thoughts about the mess. Or maybe it's a lesson, she countered, her voice measured. These things happen, Dave. It's our job to address them and keep moving forward, just like our project. Her clarity struck him as undeniably perceptive. Here she was, comfortable with turbulence, while he had flinched at the first sign of chaos. Dave took a deep breath, absorbing her perspective. You're right, he admitted slowly. But I still can't shake the feeling that we're not prepared for much more than these small hurdles. I'm not just worried about material setbacks. I'm thinking about bigger challenges, financial pressure, time constraints. What happens when we reach a dead end? This is part of the journey, she replied, confidence radiating from her. When we face those problems, we'll confront them together. Remember, we've talked about adaptability. Our ability to pivot when things go wrong will define our success. Her words resonated deeply, urging him to reconsider his perspective. Perhaps it wasn't about eliminating obstacles but learning to dance with them. Still, doubt twisted in his stomach like a stubborn vine. In a way, his feelings mirrored those chaotic piles of materials awaiting their rebirth. The potential was there, yet the uncertainty loomed large over every decision. Well, let us start by cleaning this up, he said, grabbing a nearby broom. If nothing else, we can improve our environment. As they worked together, the mechanical motions of sweeping and organizing somehow eased his mind. Little victories, he realized, would potentially pave a smoother path. With Emily's laughter throwing light into the mundane task, he began to feel the tightness in his chest loosen ever so slightly. They were capable of transforming this moment into something proactive. Once the space was clearer, and with the sun steadily on the rise, a new thought emerged. What if every setback could be an opportunity to practice resilience? After all, they were not just building a workshop. They were crafting a resilient partnership. This perspective shift was crucial. Yet he was uncertain how to maintain that mindset when significant hurdles inevitably surfaced. Well, what's next? Emily asked, brushing her hands on her jeans, peering at him with curiosity and eagerness. He hesitated, weighing the options ahead. We should tackle the workbench first. It will give us a place to organize our tools properly, and allows us to practice our skills. His voice tinged with newfound vigor, even as his reservations simmered beneath the surface as they gathered their supplies. Dave felt the knot in his chest tighten slightly. Building this workbench was almost symbolic, a solid piece of work, a foundation for future projects, and perhaps even a testament to their evolving journey together. Still, the thought loomed ominously. Were they ready to handle more than just supplies and setbacks? Would their partnership withstand the looming storms that might arise? Let us focus on one nail at a time, he said, attempting to inject optimism into his uncertainty. Crushing disappointment was an option he wanted to forego, with Emily nodding in agreement. He could see the sparkle of determination in her eyes matching the unrelenting sun overhead, setting a stage for their journey ahead. But just as they began to lay the first planks for the bench, a voice echoed from behind them, slicing through their focused silence. Hey, you two. I need a word with you. Startled, Dave turned to see an unexpected face, one he hadn't seen in years. The presence felt jarring, as if the universe had just shifted its course. What do you want? He asked, instinctively bracing for conflict. Let us just say I've got questions about your plans, the figure said, stepping closer, revealing a challenging smirk. And in that moment, Dave knew that their world was about to tilt once again, just as they were finally starting to find their footing. Could they navigate yet another challenge? Realizing their ambitions hinged on the response to this unwelcome intruder, he steeled himself for the confrontation ahead. Dave felt the familiar knot in his stomach tighten. This encounter was not just unsettling. It threatened the fragile stability they had begun to build in both the workshop and their partnership. He had hoped for a clean start, but here stood Evan, an old acquaintance who embodied everything he wanted to escape. What do you mean you have questions? Dave asked, his voice tinged with defensive undertones. He had no intention of letting Evan's presence disrupt the momentum they gained. Oh, come on, Dave. Everyone in town knows what you're trying to do here. You really think you can pull off a project like this? You'll need more than enthusiasm. Evan leaned casually against a nearby post, a smirk playing on his lips. A wave of irritation washed over Dave as his mind raced. Evan's words dangled like a challenge, nudging at unresolved doubts he had kept buried. Were they really equipped to handle the venture? Look, we're not asking for your opinion, Emily interjected, her voice firm. She stepped closer to Dave, visibly drawing strength from his presence. We have our plans and are focused on making this work. For a moment, the tension hung thick in the air, swirling around them like the dust they had recently swept away. Dave attempted to channel the confidence Emily displayed, but her bravery against Evan only illuminated his own wavering convictions. Focused, huh? Evan pointedly observed, his gaze darting between them. I hope that focus can withstand challenges bigger than some falling pipes. You'll find that the world doesn't always reward good intentions. With each word, the unsettling grip of self-doubt tightened around Dave's chest. However, it also sparked a flicker of anger within him. What right did Evan have to question their vision? What had he ever achieved that made him such a self-appointed expert on success? Instead of responding, Dave drew a deep breath and directed his thoughts inward. He could choose to engage in a petty war of words, or use this moment to reinforce his commitment to the project. The choice felt empowering. Perhaps you're right about the challenges ahead, Dave finally said, meeting Evan's gaze head-on. But we're ready to face them. A sudden surge of clarity broke through his hesitation. We're not just building a workshop, we're building a future. So if you have nothing constructive to say, I suggest you let us get back to work. Evan's smirk faltered, and for a fleeting moment, Dave saw surprise flicker in his eyes before he regained composure. You don't really think you can succeed, do you? Success is a journey, Emily replied, filling the silence that followed with a resolve that made Dave's heart leap. You might view it as a gamble, but we choose to see it as growth. If you aren't willing to support that growth, then please just step aside. Dave felt a rush of gratitude toward Emily. Her ability to confront Evan so effortlessly imbued him with the confidence he had been lacking. This confrontation, subtly unlocked something inside him. He realized he could not merely react to challenges, but could proactively define how to manage them. "Well, let us see if you can keep that bravado when the going gets tough," Evan replied coolly, before turning on his heel and striding away. His retreat felt oddly liberating, as if Dave had taken a step forward just by asserting himself. As the weight began to lift, Dave surveyed the workspace. "We'll show him," he murmured, more to himself than Emily. But even as he made that declaration, the uncertainty lingered. How much would it take to prove not only Evan wrong but also to silence the doubts echoing within him? "Just so you know," Emily said softly as they returned to their work, "you handled that really well." "Thanks," Dave replied, feeling a newfound resilience bloom within him. "I guess sometimes it takes a push to wake us up." But the question remained. How many more pushes would be necessary to solidify their ambitions? What would the next challenge look like? With a determined look, he picked up his tools, resolved to approach each obstacle as an opportunity for growth both personally and professionally. But just as he positioned himself to start on the workbench again, he spotted something glimmering underneath the pile of wood. Curiosity piqued, he leaned down to examine it. Was it a tool? A piece of scrap? Or perhaps something that held significance he couldn't yet grasp? In that moment it struck him this could be another vital piece of their journey. A long-hidden secret waiting to be uncovered. In the bright morning light that flooded the workshop, Dave knelt beside the scattered wood, tension ebbing as he brushed aside debris, revealing an old, tarnished toolbox, one that had undoubtedly belonged to his father. It was a familiar piece, a relic of his childhood filled with memories of learning, tinkering, and ultimately dreaming of building a legacy. This discovery felt like a sign, a convergence of past and present, urging him to reclaim both his family legacy and his own ambitions. As he cradled the toolbox, nostalgia washed over him. This was not merely an object. It was a wellspring of inspiration, the embodiment of dreams once cherished and forgotten. Within its rusted locks lay the potential to reignite his passion for creation. "Dad, what did you find?" Emily's voice bubbled with curiosity, drawing him from his contemplative state. He glanced at her, the spark in her eyes mirroring the excitement he felt within. "It's an old toolbox," he said, lifting it as though it were a prize from a treasure hunt. "It belonged to my father." Her enthusiasm transformed into reverence as she approached. "Can we open it?" With a nod, they carefully pried it open. Dust wafted into the air, familiar scents of metal and oil mixing with anticipation. Inside were tools, every one of which had its own story, every hammer, wrench, and screwdriver a fragment of a shared history. "This is where it all began for me," he breathed, allowing a moment to absorb the memories. "Let us use these," Emily exclaimed, her hands brushing over the relics with admiration. "These tools can help us create our workshop just like you did with your dad." That simple statement awakened something within Dave, a realization that their journey transcended the mere building of a workspace. It was about forging deeper connections. Their dreams intertwined, rooted in the past yet stretching passionately towards the future. "You're right," he stated, his voice steadying with newfound resolve. "These tools represent more than just mechanics. They symbolize the legacy of building and creating that I want to pass on to you." As they worked side by side, transforming this rediscovered treasure into the foundation of their project, Dave embraced the sensation of clarity blossoming within him. The act of creation was not solely about success. It was about embracing the process, the risks, and the unforeseen twists along the way. With every tool used, they were sculpting their narrative, threading together not just personal aspirations but shared hopes for the future. It was that interdependence that made the weight of fear lighter, and the aspiration of success brighter. The hours slipped away as they constructed their workbench, laughter echoing against the walls of the workshop, reverberating the joys of collaboration. They navigated the construction together, with Emily's enthusiasm infusing energy into every nail hammered and plank laid. Each step was imbued with the significance of transformation, not only of the space but of their relationship. Then, just when they thought they'd conquered the day's tasks, a realization dawned on Dave. This wasn't just about the physical workshop they were building. It was a gamble on themselves, on their ability to rebound after setbacks and question everything they thought they understood about success and failure. It dawned on him that true resilience was cultivated through not just each other's strengths, but their encouragement in confronting fears head-on. "Let us take a moment to appreciate this," Emily said, stepping back to admire their work. "We did this together." Dave stood beside her, chest swelling with pride. "We did. And it's just the beginning." In that realization, the final pieces fell into place, the acknowledgement that dreams weren't just destinations but the journey itself. Setting foot into the unknown, willing to take risks, slowly transformed him. He was no longer just Emily's protector. He was an active participant in dreaming anew. Outside the workshop, a familiar and nostalgic noise echoed like a herald of victory, the rev of an engine. Dave's heart raced as he recalled the warmth of those moments spent in the garage with his father, tinkering with old engines. With this transformation came the responsibility of rekindling those ties and elevating them into the legacy he wanted to craft for Emily. "We might just build something truly unique here together," he mused, turning to Emily and locking eyes. An unspoken clarity of shared intention resonated between them. "Let us also include a spot for your designs," she added, flipping through sketches and ideas, empowered by the perspective of unlimited possibilities. "This place will be for both of us, our dreams intertwined." "Absolutely, and it's time you start pursuing your own designs again," he acknowledged, grappling with the fears that had overshadowed him for so long. "Let us build something bigger than both of us." With every passing hour, with every laugh and shared thought, the hesitations that once clouded Dave's mind transformed into concrete motivations. This workshop became not just a physical space. It was a symbolic breakthrough, an opportunity to claim aspirations set forth in the stars, slightly obscured but fiercely present. As dusk fell on the workshop, a sense of solid confidence arose within him. The world beyond their door might still be filled with uncertainties, but the bond they forged was steeped in authenticity. It was through adversity that they would rise together, each decision crafted not only as individuals but as collaborators in creation. They were ready to pursue dreams unhindered, armed with the knowledge that true success lies not in fear of failures but in trusting their ability to adapt, as a father and daughter intertwined on their journey toward a future that shimmered with shared dreams, unbounded and fierce. Only they could define this narrative of resilience, their new beginning etched into every plank they laid down, fortified by a legacy reborn. Now here's an urgent call to action. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us share these important narratives. Comment below with your reactions and theories about tonight's transformation. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support is vital, and only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of taking these actions.